Okay, this is it. This is the program that you've been waiting for. It's an 8-week program. It's a split. It's aimed at people who don't have a lot of time available. So each session is about 45 minutes. You have everything in there that you need. We're focusing on just a couple of muscle groups. So every day you go in, you'll feel like you've done something. It's not going to be easy and you'll definitely feel it. So even though normally we might need 90 minutes per session, we're going to get everything done in 45 minutes. And it will be effective as long as you follow the program as set out. So 5 days a week, 45 minutes a day. The focus is muscle growth. We're focusing on the bigger muscle groups with the most potential for growth. The exercises can be done with a kettlebell, with a dumbbell, or with machines. All of that is explained in the program. Welcome to the 8-week hypertrophy program that you can perform with kettlebells, dumbbells, or even machines. I will go through all the options for all the exercises that are programmed, and I will also explain why the program is the way it is. Everything is here that you need. There's a whole schedule to follow. It will tell you when to go up with your weight. It will tell you when to go down with your weight. It will explain what kind of response you want from the exercises, so that you know when to reduce your sets or increase your weights or increase your sets, etc. It's all there. Everything you need to focus on muscle growth. The objective of the program is not to overtrain one joint. What I mean by that is, as you have a joint, there are muscles that go over it and they act upon that joint. So for example, if you're doing a shoulder press, you're working that shoulder joint. If you're doing a row, you're also working that joint. If you're doing a tricep press, where you're laying down and you're working on the triceps, you're also working the shoulder because it has to stabilize. So the point is, every day I try to focus on just that one joint for that one exercise, and then we go and split it up with another joint that doesn't affect the same joint, i.e. the same muscles. So if you have exercises that work the same joint, even though it's a different exercise with a different response, like a different prime mover, you're still working that joint. Whether you're moving or not, the stabilization happens in that joint, so the muscles are working. So my objective is not to overwork that. It's a 5-day split program and the sessions are short. We are going for about 45 minutes per session, which is not a long time when you're working for hypertrophy. You really want something a bit longer than 45 minutes. But I have been able to get it all in those 45 minutes. And I am assuming that your warm-up is about 5 to 8 to 10 minutes max. So every session is about 30 to 38 minutes, wherever I can. That's the time frame that we're going for. So this is great for people that are busy and only have 45 minutes in their lunch break or something, but they need to have 5 days a week available. The sets and the response that we want from it. So for every exercise, you're supposed to be doing about 4 to 5 sets. The first 3 to 4 sets should be taken to the point of difficulty, but not to fatigue. Then your last set, we want to go to fatigue. That basically means you can't get another rep out. And we want to work within the 8 to 12 reps for every set. So the weight that you have to pick needs to be based on that. So if you pick a weight too heavy, you'll only be able to do 4 reps or 6 reps, which is not the objective. And you might only be able to do 1 set and then you need to drop down. That is not the objective. So you know when you pick the right weight, if you can complete all those sets with the same weight, and you can get into the 8 to 12 rep range. So for every person, that is going to be different. It's important that you keep track of your weight. So once you complete your sets and you're not getting the response at the end of those sets, that's when you go up in weight. So it's not a fixed type of thing like, hey, we've done 3 weeks, it's time to go up. No, every person is different and you have to listen to your body. You have to be in touch with the response that you're getting. You have to be able to analyze it and say, hey, this was easy, I completed everything. I'm not feeling it anymore at the end of the set, at the end of the session. And this could also be different for every exercise. It's not like, oh, we've gone up with one exercise, I need to go up with the others. You need to pay attention to the response that you're getting from your body to the exercise. And all that includes recovery as well. Now, taking the sets to failure should never put you in danger. It should not affect your form and technique. So going to failure does mean that your technique and your form should still be 100%. Do not adjust your form to complete that rep in any shape or form. Now, at the start of your journey, you want to rest between your sets to be a little bit longer. You also want to reduce the reps and you also want to reduce the sets at the start. This might be a week or 2 weeks. This is the lead in. So basically you're feeling things out. You're figuring out how your body is going to respond, what kind of soreness you're getting from it. So you don't want to go with the heaviest weight that you can handle and then stick to it and just push yourself through and go out like a bull at a gate at the beginning. That's not what you want to do. You want to lead into it, feel it out, ease in, and then figure out what the right weight is going to be. You should be able to figure out by week 3 what weight you're on, and that's safe for you. Okay, now it's about 60 to 90 seconds between each set. I have programmed in other exercises that work a different body part as well. So that's great. So it's not like you have to sit there and do nothing. The first part of each day usually works like work one body part, then rest that body part, but work another body part. Then at the end of that session, we'll focus on just one body part, and then you actually need to take that rest in between the exercises. But again, everything is written down, so you can just follow along with the program. Now, most exercises are done unilaterally. I've done that on purpose. So unilaterally is going to be one exercise on one side at a time. So for example, bicep curls, you will be doing them on one side. That allows you to focus. Also, 2 dumbbells or kettlebells at the same time will require a lot more work from the upper back. So you're going to fatigue your upper back before you can finish your set, for example. That is to be avoided, and that's why I'm programming one side. It also allows you to focus, really put it in, really tense everything, and get that form and technique right. Make sure that nothing moves. So you're working your core as you're doing that. So here I'm curling, and I'm making sure that nothing moves but the joint that I want to move, which is the elbow. So the shoulder is still, and the only joint that's moving is the elbow. Now here's the difference. That would be where you are moving your spine and you're kind of swinging. We don't want that for any exercise. We only want to focus on that joint that we're working, the muscles that we're working. So good form and technique is going to be looking at just those muscles and the joints that we want to move. Nothing else should move. After week 5, we're going to add drop sets. So after you've done your last set to failure, let's say you do bicep curls with a 15 kilo, for example, and you've gone to failure with that exercise. Then the objective is to go straight into a 12.5. So a lighter weight, your next lighter weight that you have available. You pick that 12.5 and you go and do as many reps as you can, again, till failure, till you can't get another one out. You drop that weight and then you pick a 10, for example. That's your next lighter weight, whatever you have available. And you go again. It might be just 4 reps that you're getting out. Then you go to a 7.5 and again, do the same thing. Then you go to a 5 till you get nothing left, even if that means there's a 2.5 or a 1 kilo dumbbell available. You pick that up and you get some more reps out. That is going to be your drop set. in the 5th week after your failure. Now, if you repeat the program, you start with this straight away. So as this is the first time you're going through it, you start the drop sets after the 5th week. But if you repeat the program again, you just continue that from week 1. Now, the weight to work with, as I already said, it should be a weight that you can complete the reps and the sets. And it should be difficult towards the end. And on your 5th or 4th or 5th set, it should be going to failure. So that's the weight that you need. Now, if you know your 1RM, which is your 1 rep max for every exercise, then you know that you should be in about 65 to 75% of your 1RM. So you could calculate that. But otherwise you have to go and feel it out and just test for the first 2 weeks. Recovery and growth. So this program is all about growth, muscle growth. So for that to happen, you need to get a response from the muscles. The muscles are damaged as you work them. So basically there's microtrauma happening to the muscles, and that is what produces growth. For that growth to happen, it needs to recover. For recovery to happen, you need good nutrition and good sleep, good rest, not overtrain as well. So you want to make sure that you're not feeling too sore again. Your soreness should go away after 12 hours. If it continues, then you need to lower your weight or your sets or give it a bit of rest. You do not want to continue. Otherwise, you're going to overtrain and that will take you out of the program. So this is all about being in tune with your body. Listen to it, and it's going to take a couple of weeks to figure that out, how your body responds. So again, don't go at this like a bull at a gate. It's important to just take your time, be patient, and be in it for the long run. Focus. Each exercise requires focus and connection to contract the intended muscles and go to full range. So it's important to go to full range on all those exercises. What that means is, for example, here, if I stop here and then go to here, that's not full range. We want to go all the way to the extent and all the way in. And that applies to everything, presses, rows, squats, etc. You want to go to full range in those joints. Now, at some stage, we will be introducing 1.5 reps. So that means you do 1 full range rep and a half a rep. That is where you do go halfway, and we're keeping tension on the muscles. This is all great for that micro trauma that we want on the muscles. So again, focus is required. Also at the top of an exercise, contract everything. So it's not like, oh, we're here and we're done. No, really contract everything. The same thing with your press. Contract. Not just, oh, we're here, we can relax. No, contract at the end of that exercise. And the way down on every exercise needs to be the same as it went up. So if you feel like you have to let it drop from overhead or whatever, then you need more rest or your weight is too heavy. We want focus and control up and down, the eccentric and the concentric phase of the exercise. Unilateral. Now, single arm work is preferred on every exercise, but of course that's going to take more time. So if I have to do bicep curls on this side, and that's going to take 1 minute to 1.5 minutes, and I have to do it on the other side, that's 3 minutes in total. Okay, so if you're short on time at some stage, or it's just not working for you, then you need to go bilateral, which is both sides at the same time. So wherever in the program I've programmed unilateral work, but you're running out of time, then turn it into bilateral work. And you're gonna get half of the time for that working day back. So the weeks are 1 to 8, and then the 9th week is a week off, but that doesn't mean that you should do nothing. The best thing to do is light work and mobility work, lots of stretching, lots of mobility work. So don't go and do nothing for that week. Just keep going, but really light. It's like a deload week. If you need to take another week, you know by then how your body feels in response. Week 1 and 2 is lead in, which means you stay on the low end of the reps and about 4 sets. Then week 3, you increase the reps as intended and programmed. Then week 4, move to 5 sets. Then at week 6, add the drop sets and then continue. Then week 9 is off. You deload, you rest, you recover, mobility, etc. Then as you repeat the program, you don't need your lead in and you don't need to wait till week 5 to add the drop sets. You just continue as you are. Day 1, I'm going to run through all the exercises as well, so I'll cover the form and technique. Day 1, the first set is biceps. We're working on the biceps. That's the target muscle. We're going to do bicep curls, unilateral, so one side at a time. The set duration is about 1 minute. It should take at least 1 minute to complete the set. So if you're doing it in 30 seconds, you're going too fast. If you're doing it in 3 minutes, then it takes too long and your weight is maybe too heavy, or whatever you're doing, there's something not right. The total duration is 2 minutes, obviously, because 2 sides times 1 minute is 2 minutes. I've added about 1 minute, which is accounting for transitioning, setting up your next exercise, recovering a bit, whatever needs to happen. You know, it's not always just 1 minute. So I've added a minute in for padding. So I also do a timeline. The timeline gives you an idea where you should be. 3 minutes in, 5 minutes in, 8 minutes in, etc. And it shows you exactly where you should be at what stage of the session and when you're out of the session. And this is great if you're short on time. Okay, so the biceps curl exercise. Let's go through it. I'll start with dumbbell. If you're standing up, a bit of a wider stance, that gives you a better base. Elbow against your midsection, that gives you support. Then everything at the top, this here is contracted, your chest is contracted, your abs are on, the glutes are on, tense here, and then curl. Nothing's moving other than my elbow. So that's the elbow joint that we're targeting, and over that runs 3 muscles, the brachialis, the biceps brachii, and the brachioradialis. So contract at the top, bang, all the way down, side on. So you do 8 to 12 of those. Then you do your other side, and that's the same thing. Connect with that muscle that we want to feel. There's also one here that you also want to feel. Like I said, there's 3 muscles. One runs from here to here, the other 2 run here. So they connect from about here to here and pull this in. Okay, so that is with a dumbbell. Now I'll quickly demonstrate the hammer curl as well. Hammer curl is here to the side. My palm is facing in. Your wrist also needs to remain straight. If you feel like that's bending the whole time or you got issues there, you need to go lighter. You need to work on the wrists. Wrist work is included in this program. So this is a hammer curl. Okay, so that is standing. Now you can also do it sitting. As you're sitting, you're obviously taking out all the work that you need to do to stand. So you don't need to do work with your glutes or legs, etc. Not a lot of core work either. So let's say I'd be sitting. I'd place this elbow here on the inside and then curl in. So that is an alternative, and it is preferred sometimes, especially if you feel like you're working your core already, like with a lot of exercises. So if you're doing rows, if you're doing deadlifts, squats, all that works your core. And then if you have to do it with the bicep curl as well, that's added work to the core. So you might want to take that out, think about it, and connect with your body and just listen to it. So it's up to you to decide what you're doing, what variations of the exercise you're doing. Now, of course, at some stage your core is nice and strong and it recovers quickly and it needs extra work. Then you say to yourself, I'm going to do the bicep curl standing up. Okay. Now, with a kettlebell, it would look like this. You have to have that handle at 45 degrees and a gorilla grip. So you're turning the fingers in. The kettlebell is actually better than the dumbbell because it creates mechanical tension at the top as well. I'll demonstrate. So here, the weight is here. So it's still pulling, still tension, which is great. So full range, that kettlebell provides tension, which is what we want. Time under tension. With the dumbbell, it's over here and there's no more tension at the top. You have to contract just to get that tension. But here, you have to contract to keep the weight in because there's still tension. Again, super important is that 45 degree. Otherwise, here, you are working with your wrists. It's not going to happen. Here, you're not working with the wrist. Okay, so that grip is super important. Now you can do less weight with the kettlebell because there's longer tension, you'll feel it, and the weight distribution is just different. So if you're on 12.5 with the dumbbell or 15, that doesn't mean you can do the same with the kettlebell. You need to go down a bit. The disadvantage of the kettlebell is that the increments are usually 4 kilos. But if you have a gym where the increments are 2 kilos, that's great. So that was a biceps curl, a hammer curl, which is also still working on the elbow flexors. A hammer curl with the kettlebell is double arm. Grabbing it by the handle, punch the thumbs through, grab the horns. Okay. Everything tight in the back, glutes, abs, elbows on the midsection, and curl. So it's a bit more wrist work with the kettlebell, but there is a benefit, of course, that you got one weight and you're working bilaterally, so you're saving time there. So decide which one you're doing when. It's also good to sometimes just switch it up. Okay, that's the biceps curl. After the biceps curl, we're working on the calves. So we're going from upper body to lower body, working on the calves here. The joint that we're working is the ankle joint. Okay, so calf raises, and we'll do those bilaterally, so both at the same time. If you're in the gym, you can use a calf raise machine. That's great. There's many different variations of machines, and they're great. Without a machine, you'd have to load it with a kettlebell or a dumbbell, just hanging here, 2 dumbbells, but then you need your balance. So you could use one kettlebell here and then hold on to the wall and really contract, go as high as you can. You could also do one leg at a time. Don't neglect your calves, they're very important. And we're also focusing on the big muscle groups that have the most potential for growth. So calves, quads, glutes, biceps, shoulders, chest. Those are the main muscle groups with the highest potential for muscle growth. Okay, the calves. It takes about 1 minute. So if you do bilateral, the whole total duration of that set there is 1 minute. We're at 5 minutes now. We spent about 5 minutes for the 2 exercises. Then we repeat the biceps for set 2. We're doing hammer curls. Calves, set number 2. Biceps, set number 3. Calf set number 3, bicep set number 4, calf set number 4, and so on. It's all written down. Then we move on to the rhomboids. That's the area between your scapula. We are doing bend over rows, wide, because you want to focus on the middle of the back, or reverse flies. I'll demonstrate. So reverse flies would be with 2 dumbbells right here. You'd have a dumbbell in the other hand. You can bend over and contract. So your focus is on the middle right here, contracting the scapula together. You don't want to go with a weight too heavy because then you simply can't get the scapula in. If it's too heavy, you'll notice that all you're doing is just working on your delts. You don't want that. You really want to be able to go all the way up and squeeze the scapula together. So that's reverse flies. You could also use a bench. Sit in the bench here. So you got that to support your chest. And then do the same thing. You can bend your elbows a bit as well. Okay, so that's reverse flies. Then bend over rows. And this is bilateral work, so we're doing both sides. Bend over rows with 2 kettlebells. You want to go out, not in here, because then we're really not focusing on the middle. Again, make sure that you're going with a lighter weight. Even this is probably too heavy, maybe 10 or 8, so that you can really focus on the middle, everything between your scapula. So your rhomboids, major and minor, that pull those together. Also part of your trapezius. Okay, so with this one, we're doing 1 minute. It takes about 1 minute to complete. Then 1 minute rest, and we repeat those for 5 times. And that's it for the day. So then you're out at the time that it says here. Day 2, we got a compound movement, which means we're working more than one muscle group, more than one joint. We're doing a conventional hip hinge deadlift or a hang lift. So whether you do dead or hang will depend on your flexibility. But dead allows you to relax a little bit in between, and hang keeps the tension on the muscles. So you also need to keep that in mind. And it's a lot of back work as well. Okay, so the target is the hamstrings, the gluteals, and the back. The conventional hip hinge deadlift is like this. I'll demonstrate with 1 kettlebell. So the handle is approximately placed around the toes, the big toe. I'm in a neutral position. I'm gonna bend at the knees and hips and push the hips back and down. I'll feel the stretch here. I'm gonna keep the back straight. So if I don't have that flexibility and you feel like you're rounding your back, that means you need to go into a hang. I'll cover that after this. So your form and technique needs to be spot on. Squeeze the glutes, hammies, extend the hips, fully upright. I'll demonstrate side on. Here, my spine remains neutral, so my neck stays in line with the rest of the spine. Bend at the hips, the knees, pull yourself down, looking at the ground, looking ahead. Shins remain vertical. Knee above the ankle, that's what you want. Okay, so the moment you start bending at the ankle, the knee comes forward, and then you're involving 3 joints. We just want to focus on the hamstrings and the glutes, and your back is obviously working because it needs to stay straight. Also, your traps are working, especially as you go with a heavy weight for your deadlift. So this exercise is probably the exercise where you can go the heaviest. A barbell would be the same movement, but obviously your hands would be a bit wider. Don't hold your breath. Either breathe in and then out, or breathe out, down and going up. Okay, so that, you got your first set. It takes about 1.5 minutes to complete that. Then we're going into the lower arms and wrists. So the forearms right here, and we're working the wrists. So we got wrist curls both ways. So if we're going both ways, we're also working this side. Not only this side, but we're also working this side. Now, when you start with this, your wrists are going to be very unconditioned, and you have to be careful as well, because most people don't do any work in here. If you're going too heavy, overtrain it, because your wrists and forearms are doing a lot of work with grip. With every exercise, you're holding on to something and you're stabilizing that wrist. So it's doing work already. So my point is, because we're adding this as well to grow the forearms, we want to make sure that we're not overtraining it. So at the beginning of your journey, if you've never done any forearm work, keep it low. Start low, feel it out, especially in that lead-in week. Okay, here, the dumbbell is the best tool for this work. I'll demonstrate. So I'm just going to stand straight. The best thing to do is, if you have a mirror, you look in the mirror rather than having to look at it. If you can see the mirror, that's great. Everything is contracted here. Abs are on, chest is on, glutes are on. Then I'm going to curl in all the way. Now, in the beginning, your range will not be as high as this probably. Then as you continue with your training, you will be able to go further, so you get more range. Okay, so that's one way. Then you go the other way. Now that will be an area where you definitely don't have a lot of range to start with. Take your time, okay? You need to go with a light weight. You might even have to go with a 1 kilo, 2 kilo, whatever. If you pick a weight too heavy, you're just not going to be able to make the movement at all. Okay, here we go. In, curl in, out the other way, and work within the 8 to 12 rep range. Nice and slow and controlled. You do one side, then you do the other side. Okay, with a kettlebell, that is going to be a whole different game. It's a lot harder. You need to now also use your shoulders to keep that weight away from you, or you need to go here, curl, and curl the other way. It's possible, but it's a lot harder. You also need to keep a loose grip so that that handle can just move within your grip. So one more time. So I'm not squeezing the handle here. Okay. So it is possible, but I do recommend dumbbells for that. Then we switch between that again. You get the hip hinge deadlift, and then back to the arms, the wrist, and back to the deadlift, etc. Then, after we've done all those sets, we're moving into the lower arm again. This time, forearm rotations. Now, this one you can definitely only do with a dumbbell, light dumbbell. Forearm rotations are like this. Again, your range will be very minimal to start with, and it's going to be very hard to make this movement. So definitely start without weight, then add 1 kilo, 2 kilos, etc. Now what we need to do is curl in, keep it there, support here, because we don't want a lot of work to be done here, just support it, curl in, all the way this way, then rotate the other way as far as you can. Finish that, do the other side, and repeat. And that's it for the day. Then you're finished at the time, whatever it says here. Then we get day 3. Day 3 is going to be chest first, and then triceps, chest, triceps, and so on. And then back to the calves. So we're going to do chest press or flies. A set should take about 1.5 minutes. It's bilateral, so both sides at the same time. At some stage in your journey, some of these exercises can be changed to unilateral. It's a lot more core work, but we're not focusing on that right now. So stick to bilateral to start with, especially with the minimal time that we have available. Okay, chest press. There'll be 2 bells, either 2 kettlebells or 2 dumbbells. I don't recommend the barbell at all, so I'm not even going to go into that. Insert, again, that 45 degrees is very important. Loose grip, bring it to your chest, curl this one up, bring the elbows out, put your head down. So we can do this on the floor. Then bring the kettlebell above the elbow. Then chest press. All the way in, contract. And back out. Let the elbows lead. Going down. Let the elbows lead going up. So the elbows are pushing your forearm up. In, back down. Obviously the same thing with a dumbbell. Now, if you're using the ground, the great thing about the ground is your arm won't go any further and you got some support. So it has to be soft, obviously. But the great thing about a bench is you can go further, you can get more range. But at the start of your journey, work within minimal range because there's a high potential for injury in the shoulder, especially when you're going with heavier weight, more reps, etc. So at the beginning, I do recommend the floor, chest press, and then as you get better at it and you're advancing with range and strength, then go for a bench. Because so here is the range that you would be with the floor. You can't go any further. With the bench, you can go further down. Okay, chest flies. So we had the reverse flies before. They were like this. The chest fly is just laying down on a bench or on the ground. 2 dumbbells or kettlebells, and then we're going out and in. So obviously I got the wall here, but you get the point. You go all the way out and all the way in, nice and controlled. Put your head down, in and squeeze. Your elbows can be slightly bent. You can do that on a bench as well, and the same thing applies. You can go further down, but don't do that at the start of your journey. Then we're finishing this day 3 with calf raises again. We've already covered those, so let's move into day 4. Day 4, we have the latissimus dorsi, the lats, the back work with bend over rows, unilateral, 1.5 minutes per set, 3 minutes total duration. So the bend over row, you can do with a dumbbell or a kettlebell. I like the kettlebell for this. We can support ourselves here with the knee, right here or here. And you can also use a bench. So if you have a bench, you can put your knee on it and rest your hand on it and then row. Okay, obviously I don't have a bench here, so I'll demonstrate with just support from the knee, right here. The weight is under the shoulder. Row into the hips. Very important that you go back here and not here. So this is going to be a biceps curl, but we want to focus on this here. So let the elbow lead, going back. Think about going towards your hips and past. Right here. Do it without weight first to feel it and get used to it. Then do this to tell yourself, I don't want this, I don't want to feel this. Okay, that's your bend over row. You do both sides. Then we get the trapezius, the upper trapezius. So that runs from the upper part of your neck here down to your shoulder. Then at the back it goes down. It's like a diamond shape. You got your upper trapezius, your middle, and you got your inferior at the bottom as well. We're going to work the upper part because it's really nice, and that gives you a nice body shape. Okay, so with 2 kettlebells, your feet should go closer together so that the kettlebells are not touching your legs. Then shoulders down, standing straight, then pull up. So you're pulling your shoulders towards your ears. Not only are you working your upper trapezius, but also your levator scapulae. Side on. The same thing with dumbbells. Same movement. Try it without weight first. See how far you can go, because that's the same range that you want with the weight. If you can't get the same range, then you're going too heavy. All the way up, all the way down. Pull it down with your lats. Contract here. So that's your shrugs. So we're cycling between the bend over rows and the shrugs. Then we end this day, day 4, with the biceps reverse curls. So we're trying them in again, but we're doing something different. Reverse curls, normally we curl with the hand up. Now we're going down, so that's a reverse curl. Everything else is the same. You'll have to go with a lighter weight, then you can curl. Your wrist strength will play a big part in this as well. So not only are you working your biceps, you're also working the forearm. Keep that wrist straight. If you find that you have to do this, then the weight is too heavy. For now, I'll do one front on. This is not going to be comfortable with a kettlebell, so dumbbell, great. That is the end of day 4. Then we get day 5. We're going to start with a compound exercise, multiple joints, multiple muscle groups with the squat. And that's going to target our gluteals, our hamstrings, our quadriceps, our calves, and even the back. So there's a lot of muscle groups involved. We're going to do 1.5 minutes per set. And it's great to do with kettlebells. You can do 1 kettlebell, you can do 2 kettlebells. I'll demonstrate with 1 first. First, I'll demonstrate without weight, because before you add any weight, you need to make sure that your squat is perfect. If your form and technique for the squat is not as I'm demonstrating, then really you should not add any weight to it, because you're just going to get injured. So, with the squat, feet outside the hips, toes slightly pointing out. Then I break at 3 joints, ankles, knees, hips. I keep the shoulders high, I keep looking ahead. Then I think about the knees coming forward, butt coming back, and down with the butt, the hips, and shoulders staying high. Feet remaining flat on the ground at all times, pulling out as well. Breathe in. As you're coming up, you're pressing the full foot into the ground. So use the full foot, not just the inside, not just the outside, not just the front, not just the back, the full foot. Connect with it. Best done with flat-soled shoes, or no shoes at all. Here we go. Pull yourself down. All the way down. Really start getting familiar with that movement without body weight, or without weight added, sorry. So just body weight. Now with one kettlebell. That's one kettlebell. Two kettlebells, you need to know how to clean, and that's an art on its own. You might have to break up your set because the squat, it really involves a lot of muscle groups. So a lot of oxygen is required. A lot of oxygen needs to be delivered to the muscles by the blood. Your heart starts to race already. Whew, you'll feel it. So you might have to break up those sets. The most important part is hips leading, going down, shoulders staying high. Then as you go up, the shoulders should lead and the hips should follow, pushing up. Okay, strict shoulder press. So the deltoids, obviously there's more involved. Your scapula is also involved. Your core is also involved. Strict shoulder press. Nothing's moving but the shoulder and the elbow. Kettlebell. Hand insertion, super important. Here, you're not going to get anywhere. This is just a load on the wrist and forearm. Here, this is good, right here. The bell is here, not here on the forearm. Here's the difference. Right here. Okay, everything tight. Tension here. Finish your reps, down and other side. Of course, you can use a dumbbell as well. Sitting is going to provide support. So, sitting against the wall takes out your legs. Takes out your core work mostly. So keep that in mind, what I said in the beginning, by being in touch with your body and how it recovers. So, and that's it, 5 days completed. The exercises are selected to promote the highest isolation possible for this program. So isolation is, for example, squatting is not isolating anything. You're using all your muscles, you're using your whole body. Targeting just the bicep curl while seated and taking out any other work other than the biceps, that's as much isolation as we can have. Okay, so isolation is good sometimes so that you can focus on the area that we're targeting. That's it, 5 days. Everything is explained, what you need to do for the exercises, the form and technique, what weight, etc. It's all there. So after you complete the program once and you find out that there are issues, then make sure that you contact your coach again and get the program adjusted to suit your needs. After you finished it twice, you can repeat it again, or you can make adjustments to get even better results, because there will be a time that certain things don't provide the same response anymore. So you have to adjust your program at some stage. All right, just a bit more information on the exercises and alternatives, including machines. Now, the gluteals. If you want to just isolate those, so at some stage you're not getting a response from the squats and you want to isolate just the glutes, of course you're working your hammies and you're working your back as well, but the focus is more on the glutes because it's one joint. You can do stiff-legged deadlifts and you'll have to use less weight. So stiff-legged deadlift is with weight and just one joint. So my knees are going to stay straight. Everything else remains the same. So if you're working with more than one joint, you got more muscles involved to move the weight. So you can move a lot more weight. For example, with a squat, you could move 60, 80, 100 kilos. But if you do a stiff-legged deadlift, there's one joint, so less muscles that are able to move the weight, and you might only be able to do 40% of what you normally do. So keep that in mind. So that's the glutes. Now, there are some machines in the gym that you can use as well that work the glutes. There could be standing machines where you're kicking back like that. They can be used as well. Okay, the hamstrings, they're great to work with leg curl machines. So in the gym, there might be machines where you're laying down and you're pulling your ankle in towards your butt. So it looks like this. So you'd be laying down in the machine and you'd be pulling your ankles in. That's a great machine. I prefer to do that one single leg. Now, some of them are standing up as well. They're great too. Some of them you can sit. I don't prefer that one at all. I feel like it always puts a lot of pressure on the knee. So find one where you're laying down. And that's the hamstring. Then quadriceps. In the gym, there could be a leg extension machine. So you could be sitting down, and then you're extending the leg, both of them. I'll prefer to do that with single leg at a time as well. So leg extension machine in the gym can also be used. For the calves, some gyms have a machine where you're sitting down and then you put something over your knees and you're pushing up the knees. That's a great machine to use. Some of them you can sit in with your legs straight and just go up like that. Also great machines to use to work the calves. Shoulders, there are machines in the gym where you can sit down and shoulder press. That's great. Two, the same thing for the chest. There are machines where you put your arms out here, so you're sitting in a machine, and then you're bringing them together. Pec, deck. Also great to use. Okay, for the posterior delts, so the back part of your delts, you can do rows. There are some machines where you can pull in right here, so you're sitting in a machine, you're pulling in the weight. They're great too for the rear delts, but also your lats. You're also working your lats with that. For the bicep curls, there are some machines where you sit in, it's like a preacher curl. You sit in and there's a bar and then you're curling in. So you got support there. That's great. These are great machines to use. For the triceps, they have some machines where there's a handle here and you're pulling down. So you're sitting in the machine and you're pulling down. Of course, a cable machine is also great. If you got a cable machine, you could grab that cable with a rope and then go like this. That's also great to work your triceps. And that's it for all the machine work.
Hello everyone, I'm Felipe Lopez, 47 years old. I've always had an active lifestyle, not necessarily fitness-wise, but many of you will be able to relate to my anguish when the lockdown started. I found myself trapped inside an apartment with not much to do. Luckily, I found a new world in kettlebells, the Swiss Army knife of fitness. I mean, there is so much you can do with a kettlebell and 4 square feet. I found out the hard way that as vast as this discipline is, it's also highly technical. In the beginning, I started looking at every video I could get my hands on and trying to copy everything I saw. Many times, I did things in a sloppy manner and programmed my workouts without any type of order, following a bunch of YouTube gurus that sometimes gave me some value. But I think the lack of technique, guidance, and correct programming led me to a lot of non-consequential injuries that in the long run made me lose a lot of time. The Caveman Inner Circle helped focus my drive and has helped me in the programming in such a way that I've improved my loads, resistance, strength, and cardio, minimizing injuries and having a blast with all the resources I can find in the community. Leaving my ego at the door, as Taco so bluntly puts it, might be in the end the most important lesson. This is a journey that has no end. There is always something you can learn, something to improve. Allow yourselves to be helped. Take advantage of this community and improve beyond your potential.
Join the world's largest free kettlebell community and ask us your kettlebell questions at go.cavemantraining.com/kbcommunity. To learn more about kettlebells, go to cavemantraining.com/shop for kettlebell courses, DVDs, books, shirts, certifications, etc., beginner to advanced. Also available on Amazon,